Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams, my co-host tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King from Steelers Nation South, Raul Cawthon. We have a career interview for you tonight. We are joined by a weightlifter who is a seven-time senior national champion, two-time gold medalist at the Pan American Games, and a two-time Olympian representing Team USA, winning the gold medal at the 2000 Games in Sydney, Australia. So we want to welcome Tara Nott Cunningham. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Excellent. Let's jump into our interview. Go ahead, Brian.
So Tara, let's start at the beginning. What was like for you growing up in Stillwell, Kansas, and what was it that initially drew you to the sport of weightlifting?
Yeah, I started weightlifting in a very strange way. I grew up as a gymnast for 10 years. I played all different sports, played soccer, played basketball in high school, volleyball, ran track. And then I went to college for the sport of soccer. I played Division I soccer in college. And when I got done, I was just really wanting to stay in sports. And so I went to work for the Olympics in 94 for the Atlanta Committee Olympics. And they were putting on the 96 games. And I helped to put on the sport of soccer. And while I was there working in the sports department, I learned about the sport of weightlifting. So I learned about weightlifting out of college. I'd never really heard of it before. I didn't even know what the snatch and clean and jerk were. So I kind of just stumbled upon it while working for the Olympics in Atlanta.
That's a good segue here into my question because you mentioned soccer. You're the only athlete to train for three different sports at the U.S. Olympic Training Center, gymnastics, soccer, and of course, weightlifting. How good were you at the other two? Could you have gone, and won a medal in the other two?
Well, they kind of embellished that training for three sports at the training center, but I did go out there in gymnastics for a camp. You have to qualify for the camp to go to the training center when I was doing gymnastics. And then I was out there with the under 23 national team for soccer. I played in three Olympic festivals for the sport of soccer, played Division I, played in two Final Fours. So it was kind of interesting to be at the 2000 Olympic Games. We lined up right behind the soccer team, and it was tons of girls that I played in college. So I played at the time of Mia Hamm, Christine Lilly, Brianna Scurry, all of those girls that were on the Olympic team at the time. I was actually at the Olympics in 2000.
Okay.
So Tara, in every sport, there's a specific diet and exercise regimen that's recommended for an athlete to achieve top performance. For weightlifting, could you summarize a little bit about what your diet and exercise routine was like?
Well, when I first started weightlifting, I only trained like 3 days a week. I did it early in the morning before I worked. It's a sport where a lot of the athletes have to work a job. When I went out to the training center, my training schedule changed a great deal. I trained Monday, Wednesday, Friday, twice a day. Tuesday was basically technique, and then Saturday we had a session as well. But it is one of those sports where I was in the lowest weight class. I would have to cut weight. So for about a month, I would really watch my diet, eating very healthy, not like cutting a lot of weight at once. I was one of the ones that just kind of slowly took it down. But I did that every time I competed. So it was about 10 pounds I lost to get down to the 48 kilo weight class.
Tara, you won the United States' first gold medal in weightlifting since 1956 and the first medal since 1960. Did you realize that you were etched in history when you accomplished this feat? And what does it mean to you to be mentioned in that category?
Going into the Olympics, I really was just focusing on doing what I could do and lifting the weights that I could lift. And I actually, during the competition, didn't watch what the other competitors were doing. I didn't know what place I was in. So not until my last lift, when I walked off the platform, my coach told me I was in second place. So I actually won the silver medal on the day of competition. And to me, that was awesome. to be up there and win the silver medal at the Olympics. First time women were in the Olympics for weightlifting was really an honor. There was 4 of us from the U.S. that got to compete. And then 3 days later, I found out I won the gold medal. So it's kind of hard for me to think about that I am the first weightlifter from any country to win a gold medal in the Olympics since I was in the lightest weight class. So I was just lucky I was in the lightest weight class. And yeah, it's kind of historic because it's the first gold medal for women at the Olympics in weightlifting.
So you won the gold in Sydney. You just told us,
Yes.
And then you went into Athens, and basically you had the bullseye on your back. You're the gold medalist. You're the top.
Yeah.
Does your mindset change going into getting ready for the competition? And how did you train and prepare differently for that second Olympics?
The second Olympics was a lot different. I was injured actually in Sydney, and I had abdominal surgery after the Olympics. So my whole goal was to kind of just get back to being able to compete. So going into 2004, I wasn't going in thinking I want to defend my gold medal. I was thinking, wow, I'm really happy I'm here because the injury I had, I might not have been able to compete after having surgery. It was kind of an unknown thing. And so I was happy to be back. I also got married in 2003. So training changed a lot. My husband was in Michigan. So we did long distance. And so everything was really different going into 2004. It was a tough training cycle, and only 2 of us got to go. So it was a little different than 4 of us that went as a team and went out early and trained. It was after 9/11. So it was very different. So I went in by myself without my other teammate. My luggage got lost for like 5 days. A lot of things went really different in Athens, but I can look back and think, wow, I experienced both ends. I experienced where I won a gold medal, and then I experienced where it was a really difficult Olympics. So I have the perspective of both.
So you hold the American senior all-time records in snatch, clean, and jerk. You mentioned those 3 words in the first question here tonight. Can you give our listeners an idea of what those mean in your sport?
Well, the snatch is a lift that goes from the floor over your head in one movement. And then the clean and jerk goes from the floor to your chest and then up over your head in a second movement. At the World Championships or Nationals, you get medals for snatch and clean and jerk. At the Olympics, you only get a medal for total. So they combine those 2 lifts and you have a total, and that's what you medal for at the Olympics.
And what age did the senior start?
You mean the senior level? Well,
Yeah.
I was always a senior when I started weightlifting because I was out of college. But they have the nationals coming up soon here in Pittsburgh. I think it's next week, and they have 11-year-olds lifting.
Wow.
So kids are starting a lot younger. There's more exposure to it in terms of with CrossFit and gyms having platforms and bumper plates and Olympic weights where kids can go in and learn the lifts. Like I said, I had never even heard of the snatch and clean and jerk before. The only thing I remember about weightlifting is watching, and this is going to date me back there, Wide World of Sports. And it was the super heavy throwing the weights up. That's the only thing I knew about weightlifting, where I think a lot more kids are introduced to at least the clean and jerk now.
So, Terry, you were coached by a couple of the very best of the business. Mike Catone, who coached multiple champions in track and field, powerlifting and weightlifting. And then the great coach Bob Morris, who's been in the weightlifting world for decades. So what was it like working with those guys?
Yeah, and I had 3 coaches. So Mike Catone started me out in weightlifting. He worked for the Olympics in 96. He ran the sport of weightlifting. And then also another guy that was there is Lynn Jones, and he was my coach at the Olympics. He was my coach at the training center leading up to 2000, and then Bob was my coach after the 2000 games. So I had great coaches during my career. Again, I was very fortunate to come into the sport and meet people like Mike Gattone, who first started me lifting. And Mike is going to be with the U.S. team at the Paris Games. So I was very fortunate to have access to that when I started weightlifting.
So in 2010, you're inducted into the Kansas Sports Hall of Fame. 2015, the International Weightlifting Hall of Fame. I mean, what did these honors mean to you?
Those are very special. I'm a pretty quiet, shy person, and I don't much like media, but it was an honor when I was inducted into the IWF and then also the Kansas Hall of Fame. That's really special that those are places that recognize my career in weightlifting.
Tara, what was life like after, the competitions, the training, the regimens? What has life been like after that? And are you still, going to the gym, putting the weights on?
Well, I work out, but I have 5 kids. So they keep me very busy. My husband is actually a coach at Penn State, a wrestling coach. And so he will actually be heading to the Paris Games. We have 4 athletes going there competing in wrestling. So I pretty much, for the last 19 years, since the 2004 games, I've stayed home with my kids and raised them and gotten them to all the sports they need to go to. So it's been nice that I've been able to do that.
So I'm going to throw one more at you here. I didn't even have written down. We see today that not just women, but men as well, they are bigger than ever. They're stronger than ever. What is, I guess, what do you think the peak will be for weightlifting as far as the amount of weight someone can put up?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I think, like, if I look back at my totals at the Olympics, they range in the top 10 in the world right now. There are people, pushing that limit, but I think it's also a sport that you have to stay on top of drug testing in. I think it's something that those numbers can really push up if someone's using stuff. And the IWF has done a great job lately, really trying to keep it a clean sport. But I think that's super important to for the health of weightlifting in the long term.
Yeah, I just want one question. So when you were training,
Yeah.
How much did you eat? What was your caloric intake when you were training and you were lifting weights? Were you 3,000 calories?
No, I had to watch it again because I had to make a weight class. Like, there's super heavies. I roomed with a super heavy at the Olympics. Doesn't have to watch, what she's eating. For me, I had to be pretty strict. But I also had to get the proper nutrition in. I would say 1,500 calories for a lightweight, So it can get pretty rigid coming down to competition time. And we worked with nutritionists there just to get the proper nutrition leading up to competition. But for me, it was always trying to lift the same amount that I was lifting at the heavier weight at the lighter weight when I got in competition, because you're going to train a little bit heavier. But no, I did not have the luxury of eating a lot of calories during my career. So
I can't believe you said 1,500 because 1,500 is all I get on Nutrisystem in a day.
yeah, maybe 1,500 to 2,000, but like again, I was cutting down 10 pounds to make the weight class. And, after sometimes they change the weight classes. So when I first started, it was 50 kilos, which was a perfect weight class for me. It's kind of what I fell in. And then it went to 48 kilos. and 53 kilos. Well, then I was kind of stuck in the middle. So then I had to choose, do I go down to 48 or I go up to 53? 53 was really hard for me to get to. But I was one of the taller lifters at the Olympics at 5'1" at 48 kilos. So there was a lot of smaller, shorter girls at that weight class.
But Tara, was there like one girl that kind of stuck out as like a rival for you? Like, you know, you saw her, she's in the competition, you know, you're gonna have to bring your A game. Was there somebody that sort of stuck out?
Not really. I mean, going into competitions, you know what countries are bringing really good girls. And again, I tried to just focus on, for me, weightlifting was fun because I could challenge myself to see how much more I could lift each time. It wasn't so much about beating someone, you know, it's not like a wrestling match where you're going against one person. It's kind of like you against the weights. So
Right.
I kind of just set my goals on certain weight totals. And for me, if I went into a competition and I made those, then I had a good day. If I didn't make them and I still beat someone, I wasn't happy with it. So that's
Right.
what I liked about weightlifting is you could really challenge yourself just with your own goals of lifting certain weights.
Well, thank you so much, Tara, for joining us. We appreciate you coming on, giving us your time.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
A reminder, everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification button. And if you're a big Olympic fan, go into the archives on the YouTube channel, select playlists, select Olympics. We've got U.S. gold medalists all over the place. Dan Jansen, Tristan Geisler. I know I'm forgetting 100 of them right now. Eric Moana from volleyball. So every sport you could think of, we got on there. Check it out. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We'll see y'all next time. Have a great night.